This is Stories from the States. I'm Chris Fitzsimon. Here at States Newsroom, we know there's a lot going on around the country in every state. Thank you for being here. This week, we're talking about two proposed ICE detention centers in rural Pennsylvania. In recent months, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security has spent more than $1 billion buying nearly a dozen warehouses in several states. The plan is to turn them into immigrant detention centers as part of the administration's mass deportation initiative. Two are in Pennsylvania: Tremont Township in Schuylkill County and Upper Bern Township in Berks County. In Part 3 of their Iced Out series, audio reporter Emily Previty explores the risks the project in Schuylkill County poses to an area that's already struggling to mitigate harms from unwanted industries past and present. Just a note, if you didn't listen to the first episodes about ICE's plans and the community response, I'd like to recommend you start there before you start this one. You can check out the episode description for all the episodes. Meanwhile, here's Part 3 of the three-part series Iced Out.
Immigration and customs enforcement coming into Schuylkill County seems familiar to some people there, and not in a good way. They say it's a pattern that dates back hundreds of years to the beginning of the coal mining industry, of outsiders taking advantage of the community. Joe and Lara Viscount are two of them. They live in Tremont Borough, where Joe grew up, and he and Lara moved back here about a year ago from Swedesboro, New Jersey, after they retired from teaching. I talked with them at their kitchen table in what used to be part of a bar/mini golf course that Joe's parents ran for years.
It was Jack's Bar when my father purchased it, and then he called it Pete's Bar.
Is his name Pete?
Well, that's another long story. No, his name's Robert, but his nickname's Pete.
Everyone has nicknames.
Nobody,
no one goes by their own name.
Nobody goes by your given birth name here.
Do you have a nickname yet? Or did you...
He was Little Pete.
Repeat.
Little Pete. I don't have one.
Even though Pete wasn't either one of our names.
Then Lara raised a subject that's come up in every interview and every public meeting during my reporting.
Yeah. When you walked in here, did you smell the smell?
I had not. Apparently, it wasn't that bad on this particular day, but often it's a big problem. It's coming from a biosolids plant nearby. People who live around here hope that with state environmental officials paying attention to the community due to the detention center, that something can be done.
You go out, you smell.
75% of the days it smells like a bathroom, like somebody just went to the bathroom outside. And it is...
You can't sit on the porch.
When it's bad, you can't sit on the porch. It's
in your throat.
It chokes you. It burns your eyes, burns your tongue. It leaves a taste in your mouth. It's that bad. And we were trying to get involved with that to see what could be done. I call the DEP all the time. We're in conversations with them. So we were kind of going to meetings. We were just beginning to do that when this came along. We have so many concerns because it is a beautiful area, and with this coming in with 10,000 people and everyone's got to go to the bathroom every day, we're not getting any answers as to what are they going to do with sewage, with water. No one's providing information. The county commissioners, they were getting information that due diligence was done and engineering reports were done, but no one has seen them.
The absence of a public process for ICE's Detention Reengineering Initiative, as it's officially called, is not unique to Pennsylvania. It's also different from community engagement ahead of some other federal initiatives. One recent example is the Department of Energy's push to develop hydrogen hubs. Pennsylvania is part of two. The Mid-Atlantic, or Mach 2 Clean Hydrogen Hub, includes the Philadelphia area, along with Delaware and New Jersey. The Appalachian Regional includes Western PA and parts of Ohio and West Virginia. Some stakeholders in that issue say there aren't enough details or transparency, but there are dedicated websites for each that include official documents and email update signups. For sites in the Appalachian region, virtual public meetings and comment periods stretched from January through November of 2025, with environmental impact statements anticipated in spring of 26. Mach 2's public engagement phase is going for 18 months. That's not what happened with ICE's initiative in Tremont and other communities.
And this wasn't on the ballot. You might feel a certain way for immigration, against immigration, but having the detention center in your town, that's a little different thing.
In some places, news got out about the federal government planning to buy warehouses for this purpose before the real estate deals had closed, and then public outcry ultimately pressured private owners out of selling. That happened in at least half a dozen communities, including Kansas City, Oklahoma City, and Hutchins, Texas. High-ranking Republican officials shut it down right away in a couple states before the federal government bought anything. In New Hampshire, Governor Kelly Ayotte, and in Mississippi, Senator Roger Wicker. After property acquisitions in Arizona and Maryland, attorneys general have filed lawsuits. In terms of timing, those scenarios are comparable to what's happening in Pennsylvania, where Governor Josh Shapiro's administration has basically barred local officials from facilitating water and sewer use at the sites in Tremont, as well as Upper Burn in Berks County. There's an attempt to use water restrictions to slow things down in other places too, including Salt Lake City.
And if Schuylkill County wants it, if it were up to a vote, I don't know. And if it did pass, I still don't want it in Tremont. I don't want this attached to our town.
Back in February, Schuylkill County Commissioner Larry Pedora wrote to Congressman Dan Muser, Senators Dave McCormick and John Fetterman, the Department of Homeland Security, and ICE. The letter refers to the detention and processing facility in Tremont as a potentially harmful, unfunded federal mandate. It demands a contract that locks in several things. First, payments in lieu of taxes, starting with the upcoming fiscal year, July 1st. On top of that, charges per detainee for the area's emergency response, courts, infrastructure, and healthcare systems. And then a reimbursement framework for judicial services, from interpreters to attorney caseloads. The document says, quote, absent timely federal engagement and enforceable commitments, the county will be required to evaluate all remedies necessary. Finally, it asks for a draft agreement by mid-April, which did not happen. There are some things missing from the letter. Joe and Lara touched on a few.
I mean, we do have concerns too about humane treatment and having our town attached, turning on the nightly news, and there will be deaths. There will be people dying there. We are not allowed to inspect it. No one's allowed in. No one's allowed to see what's going on. And we have a government who has been lying to us with videos rolling with what happened in Minneapolis. What's going to happen behind closed doors? It is a concern on top of all these other local infrastructure and quality of life issues.
Pedora says he's asked the feds for their eventual agreement to include tours by a contingent of local officials. But he acknowledged to me when I asked him that they don't get tours of the 2 federal prisons that have been up and running for years already in the county. Also, the tours of the proposed ICE facility are not included in the requests in his letter. And it could be a long shot, given members of Congress have been rebuffed, trying to get access they're already supposed to have to federal detention facilities.
As a kid, I noticed it like if it wasn't for the coal industry, which ripped apart the mountains, and then the landfills came in, and now we have biosolids. It's if you were to take that all away, it wouldn't look any different than the Poconos. It would have that same feel, but it's been ravaged by big money coming in and taking advantage of poor population.
Zach Reinell says the way he sees it, with the Tremont property, its prior incarnation as a warehouse owned by a private company, didn't bring that many benefits to the community.
So that company has benefited more than I say, have benefited from them. You know, especially the locals that work there. Yeah, maybe the township made a couple 100,000, 300 and some thousand, but when you got people that are in this community and they're working and they have to like literally kill themselves to make $23 an hour in a warehouse, they're not getting favors given to them.
Zach runs the Anthracite Upland Pointing Dog Association, which is headquartered at the property next to the warehouse, further down Roush Creek Road from the intersection at Route 209, on the opposite side of the warehouse from where Joyce Wetzel's daycare center is located.
We have 2 missions. One is to prove hunting dogs, that they do what they're supposed to do according to the standard for which they are bred. The other aspect of it is because we created these ideal grounds for testing, it is also ideal grounds for habitat. And that was just changing the habitat, getting rid of a lot of the stuff that had grown up in this abandoned mine land that you don't want, and getting the stuff that the birds do want. So that's close to 400 acres now that we've reestablished over 21 different species of native plants that we have back on these grounds that had been extirpated over years of mining and damage that had been done. So with that having been done, we're starting to see like our grouse numbers are starting to increase. That's what we'd focused on. We've done a $500,000 grant project in fixing up a mine shaft that had opened up. Part of that reclamation work did reduce the amount of damage that was occurring to Roush Creek Road.
When Big Lots was developing this property in the 90s, a couple news stories from back then documented the abandoned mines underground in this area. One article said it was, quote, peppered with them, and that the company had to be very mindful while proceeding. Maps of the abandoned mines from the State Department of Environmental Protection don't identify any on the site itself, but do show them on adjacent properties. Some appear to have gone through reclamation, others have not, and it's unclear how far their impact on topography extends. One concern is the potential for mine subsidence, or sinking ground, which can manifest as a gradual settling or a sinkhole that suddenly opens up. It's also unclear how these mines might be migrating, which they tend to do over time. Zach says it's not only the legacy of the mining industry. Long after it collapsed, still affecting the area with environmental destruction and ground instability. But there's also illegal dumping and hunting and drug production and distribution.
This is where if you wanted to get a bag of cocaine or you wanted to get meth or heroin, you would meet on this road and you would give the guy your money and he'd give you the drugs. This is where we had found over, I believe it was over 74, 75 needles that we had found along this roadway from people using drugs. And we've come back through and found people in almost a comatose state where they were zonked out on whatever it was they were on. And it went on for years. This place was considered essentially like a landfill for the locals that didn't want to pay to take it to the junkyard or take their stuff to the landfill. They would bring back tires and mattresses and drywall and carpet and shingles and you name it. And first year, 60 tons of trash that we had removed.
Zach says there's basically no evidence anymore of the illegal activity that was once such a challenge.
I'm glad it's not going to be a warehouse anymore. I wouldn't care if the whole building got torn down. To be honest, I wish it would. You know, I wish it wasn't even there. But we got to deal with it. We got to deal with the light pollution from all these lights that are up here in the parking lot at night. You know, so there are things about this facility being here that are a negative. And, like, ideally, it wouldn't be here at all. And ICE wouldn't be buying it.
He's aware of the pushback to ICE's plans, but to him, it seems inevitable that the agency will follow through.
And there's a lot of people that are worried because of not knowing. And it's one of those things that you got to kind of let the cards fall where they do, because, I mean, if they're going to need to upgrade the water and the sewer, obviously it's going to get done. That could benefit Tremont Township. I don't know. I don't know all the ins and outs. I don't deal with that. But to think that that's the issue that's going to stop this, I don't see that taking place. I see the federal government having to do what they're going to have to do if they're going to want to make this work. But who holds them accountable?
Other people in the community have been asking that same question, among many others, and trying to push for some accountability themselves to the extent that they can. They're organizing by compiling signatures on petitions, circulating resolutions to try to get local governments to take a formal stand, and going to a lot of public meetings. Brianna Del Val is one of them. She lives in Orwigsburg, a borough in Schuylkill County, more than 20 miles from the Tremont site. We met about halfway at a coffee shop in Pottsville, the county seat.
In the past, I would purposely take that route to drive out that way to 81 when I worked in Harrisburg, like 15 years ago, because I just like the drive out there. It's a lot of forests, a lot of like windy roads. You still, even now, lose like cell service and like satellite radio service when you're out that way in these little hollows between the hills. The forest is really thick, so you just feel like you're in this straightaway, looking straight down at this mountain in the background, and that's Tremont.
Brianna is an organizer with No Skook Detention, which runs a website with aggregated news coverage, details about events, and correspondence with elected officials. The group also organized a town hall in March that drew more than 100 people, and its members are among the residents who've been at public meetings to demand action and answers from local officials and to get their questions and concerns on the record. That's how I connected with Joe and Lara Wiscount and met Brianna.
I was researching things. You see a lot of kind of misinformation on Facebook. People saying that it's going to be all these jobs. So then I looked up, hey, what's our unemployment rate? We have less than 3,000 people unemployed in the county. How many jobs do we have open in the county? We have about 2,500 jobs open. Are these jobs really, do we need these jobs? And are these jobs going to go to people here?
As of late May, ICE has 68 job listings on usajobs.gov. 10 don't name a location. Of those that do, most are outside Pennsylvania. 4 have multiple places listed that include Philadelphia. And one role, criminal investigator, notes openings in more than 200 places, including a handful in PA. In addition to Philly, it's Allentown, Erie, Pittsburgh, York, Wilkes-Barre, and State College. Nothing about Tremont. The closest are Allentown and Wilkes-Barre, each more than 60 miles away. There's also the potential that the government will largely privatize operations, as it has elsewhere. Pedora told me he hasn't been given an indication either way by federal officials.
A lot of people have asked what's going to happen after they're done with this deportation thing. Is Geo Group or whoever runs it going to be okay? Are their shareholders going to be okay with now suddenly having to shut down these facilities? Probably not.
After we talked, I reviewed ICE's strategic plan through 2030. The document is 20 pages long and uses relatively broad language. In one spot, it describes the agency's mission in part as, quote, defending the homeland through the arrest or removal of individuals who present a threat to national security, public safety, or the integrity of the U.S. immigration system. So, what is a threat in this context? It's not defined, and ICE did not respond to a question about that. The plan also doesn't get into granular details that would satisfy most questions being raised in Tremont and other communities about what's coming.
What is the plan? Like, we're the ones going to be dealing with it, and we have no information.
And it was a vacant warehouse, and warehouses right now, there's a lot of vacant warehouses, and the government paid double what it was assessed at. Like, there's so many questions. It just doesn't make sense. It's untenable. It's not. There's no way it can work.
Joe later detailed this at a public meeting and gave documents supporting his analysis to commissioners at that time. I was listening live over Zoom and later asked him and Lara to share the documents, which they did. The baselines and assumptions that Joe is using match those from the county commissioners themselves and the municipal authority, as well as orders and correspondence from the state.
Our big concern is we don't want on water or sewage messed with. But the inefficiency of doing this is mind-boggling.
Joe says expanding this area's infrastructure sufficiently could take 2.5 to 3 years, and that's with an aggressively accelerated approach. Closer to 8 years is more realistic. And either way, billions of taxpayer dollars are being spent. Joe also looked at the financials to meet the facility's basic needs if it starts operating without that infrastructure work completed.
They have 165 trucks bringing water in, moving sewage daily. The cost on the low end is over $1 million a day, possibly as high as $4 million. That's not even taking the price of diesel fuel into effect. I did this before the increase in that. That's roughly $400 million to $1.3 billion a year. And that doesn't cover any other part of the detention center.
Joe and Lara say they haven't done community organizing or local politics before, but Joe remembers watching his father's involvement.
And his thing was preserving, saving Tremont, and he and his retired buddies donated their time, but he also knew how politically to get grants and grant money. And he never fixed the doorknob around here, which was He was over there with jackhammers and sledgehammers, and he never touched anything here. He paid people to fix the house. But in his retired life, they redid that school. They redid the school up here. There's a little park down here. That was a dilapidated old hardware store that was crumbling. They had bake sales. They had fundraisers. They did all kinds of things to raise money. Bulldozed the old hardware store and made a little veterans park, and his picture's down there if you drive by.
Right before it was completed.
Right before it was completed. And he was a fighter. He was he would be all in until something was done, and he would not want this detention center here. Absolutely not.
The Schuylkill County Board of Commissioners hasn't passed a resolution against the project, as some other local government leaders have done. Pedora and his fellow Republican commissioner, Baron Boots Hetherington, have declined to take a firm position publicly. The board's Democrat, Gary Hess, has made his opposition official.
This stuff is so polarizing, and that's what was so encouraging when we went to the meetings, was that our concerns overlap and cross over party lines. It's really the good of the town. Like, there's so much we're already dealing with. We don't want any more dumped on this town or the little towns around it.
The way this federal government operates, I don't really think they give a crap.
In this area, that's a long-standing pattern.
We were driving yesterday. Now, I'm not really familiar with the area. Like, we come up, we would visit the grandparents, and we'd stay for a couple of days. And like, long term, I'm just starting to get the lay of the land up here. And we went for a drive. We went out Sunday, and my mother-in-law was like, okay, I'm sure I'll get it out of order, but there's the chicken manure plant.
Processing
plant. So she's like, she's pointing that out. And then we get on to 81, and there's the landfill on the right, and you're driving for forever, and there's these landfills, you can see them, and then on the left you can see state prison, and then on the right a little further down, federal prison, and then when we were on the way back, she pointed out where the detention center would be. Like, it's all just right in this area. A lot. It's too much. It's too much, and it wouldn't happen if you were in a wealthy area. It wouldn't happen. They wouldn't allow it.
You've been listening to Iced Out, a limited series from Follow PA and the Pennsylvania Capital Star. If you like what you've heard, we'd love it if you'd recommend it to a friend. You can find the full series wherever you get your podcasts. We have more stories in the works on this issue, and to find out when they're available, you can also subscribe to the Pennsylvania Capital Star's newsletter. It's pencapital-star.com, and we've included a link in the show notes. Tim Lambert is the Capital Star's editor-in-chief and executive producer of this series. Special thanks to WITF for use of their studios, and to States Newsroom national editor Sarah Baranowski and national podcast producer Mallory Chang. I'm Emily Previty. Thanks for listening.